evening in New York, so good evening to those of you on the East Coast, and good middle of the night, perhaps, to some of you, and good afternoon to those of you on the West Coast of the US. We're so excited to talk to you tonight about our Global Thought MA program. We have two wonderful alumni with us, Alex Hussey and Kennedy Zhang. And my name is Sarah Miller-Davenport. I am the graduate program director at Global Thought. I'm also a historian of the United States and the world in the 20th century. I will be leading this session, but it's going to be very informal and collaborative with our panel here tonight. So I'm going to pass it over to Farryl to introduce herself, and then I'll have Kennedy and Alex introduce themselves.
Hi, everyone. My name is Farryl Last. I am the Assistant Director of Academic Programs with the Committee on Global Thought. So I work very closely with Sarah on our MA program. And my background is in poetry and international education. I'll pass it along to Kennedy to introduce herself.
Hi everyone, my name is Kennedy Zhang. I'm originally from Beijing, China, and I did my undergrad degree at Emory University in Atlanta, and I did my global thought degree from 2022 to 2023. And currently I am with the UNDP Human Development Report Office. Very happy to be here and to take your questions.
Alex.
Wonderful. Hi, my name is Alex Hussey, and I am from the Global Thought cohort of 2025. I did my undergraduate at Wellesley, where I studied international relations and political science with a teaching license in middle school and high school history, along with a teaching studies minor. After graduation, I worked in Bangkok as a teacher. I'm originally from Portland, Oregon. And yeah, I'm trying to think. Right now, I'm currently working on two projects, one called the Biracial Embassy and the other called the Zhang Regenerative Village Project in Bhutan. Very excited to meet you all today.
Great. All right, so we have a brief slideshow to go through, Farryl and I, and we'll cover the kind of basics of the degree, what Global Thought is all about, and then we'll open it up to a discussion with our two alumni, and we'll open up to questions from you all. So if any questions arise as we're talking, please pop them in the Q&A. Some of those you'll see Farryl will be able to answer as they come, because we have a lot of information on our website. But any questions, that require a bit more discourse, we will open up. We will answer here during the webinar. All right, so let's get started. So the first question that a lot of people ask is, what is global thought? And this is a question, I know that you will get asked by your relatives as you're applying or once you start your degree. So the way we describe it is here on the slide, right? Global thought is an open-ended approach to exploring questions that demand perspectives across disciplines and borders. It challenges us to think differently, think globally, think creatively in order to develop better ways to understand and address the complexities of our interconnected and ever-changing world. And one thing to note is, we are the only global thought program out there. So global thought is in and of itself not a discipline, we don't have a kind of literature or canon. Even many kind of interdisciplinary disciplines, as you might call them these days, have been around for a while. American studies, ethnic studies, international relations, even global studies. There's a kind of there's certain texts that that everyone reads, certain thinkers that you turn to. With global thought, there's certain texts that we read often, depending on the class, and our MA seminar and our core classes, right? But at the same time, one of the kind of key approaches in global thought is that it changes, and so that the methodology itself changes, the texts we read change, because it's responsive to what's going on in the world in this moment. So that's one way to think about global thought, right? Is it's broadly about how we understand our world, and the way that we approach our world must be inherently interdisciplinary, right? But it also must be responsive to the changes the world is experiencing, at this moment in time. All right, so more concretely, the degree itself is, it's a full-time one-year degree. We also have a part-time option for US students. And we can talk more about that if you have questions about it. But essentially you need to achieve 30 credits. And that's usually done in 2 semesters. Again, it can also be done part-time for US students. And about half of your credits will be in the Global Thought core, and half will be electives of your choosing. You can go a bit over 30 credits. You must have a minimum of 30 credits, but that's essentially one way to think about it. It's both grounded but flexible. So we're grounded in the Global Thought core, which consists of MA Seminar 1 and 2 in the fall and spring, and then we have a Global Politics and Culture core, and a Global Governance and Political Economy core class. And then the rest of your classes are made up of your electives from across Columbia's many graduate schools. Key to the degree, and this is something you'll work on through MA Seminar, is your MA essay. We don't call it a thesis because it's a little bit shorter than a traditional MA thesis, so it's a 10,000 word essay based on original research. Again, you research and write it through MA Seminar, and the assignments build on each other. So in the fall, you'll start off with a really basic assignment, which is 2 potential topics, come talk to us in office hours, and then you'll work your way up through an outline, an annotated bibliography, and then you'll start writing sections of your essay. And another really, I think, key part of the MA essay, and something that makes our program somewhat unusual, is that all of the advising for your MA essay is done in-house, right? So that means you have a member of the CGT teaching and advising team advising you on your MA essay. And this is really important, actually. And over the years, I've come to realize how important it is, because it means that you don't have to chase, a faculty member who, you're hoping to get feedback from. We're very diligent about how we provide feedback, and doing that in a very timely manner. And we follow our own feedback guidelines among ourselves. So you don't have to find an advisor. We do it for you. We might not be, experts in your particular topic, but we have a lot of experience, the CGT teaching and advising team, in developing research projects and guiding students through that process. And then at the end of your year, you will present your research at the Global Thought Symposium, which is really, one of the most wonderful events of the year, and you'll get to show off all that you've achieved in your research. On to Farryl.
So MA and Global Thought students come from all over the world, as you can see from this map of nationalities of Global Thought current students and alumni all put together. We have this other beautiful representation of the map and a list of all the countries that our students and the alumni have come from in the past. So this year, we have 16 countries represented in the group of 34 students, and the exact makeup of the cohort varies every year. But we usually have around 35 to 40 students, and it's always this diverse, if not even more diverse, depending on the given year. So one great aspect of it's usually more diverse. One great aspect.
16 countries represented is still good.
So one great aspect of this level of diversity and where our students come from is that there's never any majority group. The MA students come from all around the world, so you're always in class with students from different places, and all these students bring their unique perspectives to the classroom. which gives you the chance to meet and make friends with people from so many different places. Equally as diverse is our students' academic backgrounds. So many of our students do come from the humanities or social sciences, but the exact majors within those very broad umbrella groups vary very, very widely. And we also have students who come in with a background in business or STEM fields in the program as well every year. So you might be sitting in class next to a political scientist or an economist, someone who studied literature or fine arts or marketing. You get the idea. It's very, very diverse, both in terms of the places on the globe where people come from and their disciplinary expertise that they bring in from undergraduate or other master's programs coming into this program. So as you can see from this slide, it's not surprising that our MA students are also interested in going into a variety of careers since they come from such a wide range of disciplinary backgrounds, and they really do go into a wide variety of careers. The ways of thinking you learn in this program prepare you for so many different things. Our alumni have gone on to successful careers as analysts, consultants, directors in communications, finance, health, tech, and education in both corporate and nonprofit sectors. Other alumni have used the MA as a stepping stone to further graduate studies. And our alumni have worked at places like the World Economic Forum, the Brookings Institution, Visa, the United Nations. And again, they pursue careers all over the world. So this degree really prepares you for a wide range of careers in a wide range of places. And along the way, you'll get to meet people who come from a wide range of like disciplinary expertise backgrounds and from a wide range of places as well. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen here, and we'll take some time to have a conversation amongst us about some key points about the program. And then, again, as Sarah said, feel free to plop questions in the Q&A. If it's easy for me to send you a link, I'll send you a link or answer in the Q&A or the chat. I'll also share some key links with you, and we'll save some time for conversation around those questions at the end.
Great. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts of the MA in Global Thought degree. But you know, one of the main takeaways from these sessions that we do for prospective students is the perspective of students themselves, and in this case, our wonderful alumni who are here with us tonight. So I'm going to open up questions to them and just start with what originally drew you to CGT. So Kennedy, if you could go first.
Yeah, thank you for the thorough introduction, Sarah and Farryl. So I think what originally drew me to CGT is, firstly, I would say the name, because when I saw the name Global Thought out of like the Columbia major directory, I felt very intrigued, I would say. So I wanted to demythologize what this program actually is. So I went to the website and I read about it. And when I saw the course names like art in protest and protest in art, what does that mean? And when I saw globalization and the problems of world order, I just feel like it's very refreshing, very unique. It's so experimental, tentative. So I think I want to apply for this program just to sort of like demythologize what it actually is. But prior to coming to this program, I still sort of felt like I was going into a blind box of a little mystery, but it turned out to be the exact program that I want to enroll in. And I think everything exceeded my expectation. I went to places I could only dream about, and I met very interesting professors, public speakers that I only saw on televisions before, and I went to places that only existed in my textbook prior to coming to New York. So I think overall it was just a very amazing experience.
Thank you. That's great. And I think, you know, something you were in a way intrigued by the mystery, as you said, of Global Thought. And I think that speaks to the fact that so much of what we do at Global Thought is ask questions and think about what questions to ask, right? And we hope that if our students take away anything from this degree, it's about how to ask questions, right? And that the world does remain a somewhat mysterious place because it's ever changing, right? But we need to figure out what questions to ask to address, many of the global problems that our graduates go on to tackle. So Alex, tell us what drew you to global thought initially.
Yeah, and actually going off of that, I think people who are often attracted to this degree, like you were saying, are asking questions and are also curious people. Because after talking, we just had a reunion this week and talking to some fellow alums and current students, something we've remarked is many of us fell into it. We'd like to say where you're not going on the webpage searching up global thought because that is not a program that has existed in other schools, but rather you are searching through all the courses because you're an interdisciplinary learner and there's many interests that drive you. And so you're searching to see what the school offers, and find the program and find that it fits. And I would say that's my experience is that while I studied international relations in undergrad, I had a wide range of interests from international affairs to climate to education. And I felt that many traditional IR programs or education programs didn't capture that intersection where I could find one that maybe a climate program intersected with international affairs, but there weren't many that were in education. What I found in global thought is that it allowed me to explore those with the foundation being in global studies, international affairs, globalization, and a real curriculum that I could build off of and could easily explain to future employers. Another thing that really drew me is that I had done an internship with the UN Environment Program and I loved it. I knew I really wanted to pursue work in this world and in this space. And many of those positions require a master's. So I was really looking for one that I felt captured the kind of the thinking behind diplomacy or this international work and kind of what that takes, and something that the Global Thought program has that many other programs don't advertise as much or can't promise is such an international cohort and this focus on learning from them, where it was not just about what classes are you taking, but it was just as much about who is in your cohort and what are you learning from them. And I felt that coming from an education standpoint as well, it meant a lot to me to see that on the website, see that in the advertisement, that this was just as much about your fellow classmates as it was about the courses you choose to take. And then kind of my last point is that it also really attracts people that I felt I'd been searching for, where I have in the past lived in Costa Rica and Nairobi and Bangkok. And I feel that many people who are living in different countries or traveling around, often we don't have this kind of sense of place rooted in one spot, or we can adapt and easily learn from each other. And this program really tracks like-minded people. And that was something that I was really searching for, was people who felt very similarly about living in the US and about traveling and being international.
Great, thank you. That was lovely. And I think, one thing we've heard that, I think came out in your remarks, Alex, and that we've heard from other students is I did this degree because I couldn't find a degree that I wanted to do anywhere else, right? Like this, because you can really design your own degree. And at the same time, there is this grounding in the global thought core and in the cohort, right? And I think that's really key to the global thought experience. And one of the questions that we get a lot is, how is this program different from a traditional international relations degree? And both of you touched on that, and we've touched on that as well, right? In terms of there isn't a kind of canon or a literature, right? I can tell you, I teach in the MA seminar. We change the syllabus every year, every semester. The syllabus changes, right? And that's because we sit down. It's generally co-taught. The two instructors sit down and are like, what are, based on the applications of the students who we've admitted to the program, like what are our students interested in? How are they defining the key global issues of this particular moment in time? And then, that's in the fall. And then in the spring, we have an even better sense of what our students are interested in because we've worked with them in the fall and we know what they're doing for their MA essays, right? So it's very responsive to the students' own interests, right? Our curriculum. And then, of course, they get to design the second half of their curriculum through the electives they take. And it's funny, I asked someone at the registrar's office recently, like, how many graduate level courses are there at Columbia? And they're still getting back to me. I don't know, but it's a lot, like thousands. I don't have the exact number. I wish I did. I tried to get this information for you. But just the course offerings at Columbia are, quite staggering. And so you really can create a kind of bespoke degree, as it were. So, one question I want to ask the two of you, and again, speaking to the broader, sort of more holistic experience of being a global thought student is what were your experiences beyond the classroom, right? In terms of global thought programming, events, cohort building, activities, because I think that really is key to the degree as well, right? And we very much approach our students as whole people, right? Who are not only, doing academic work in the classroom, right? But that the experience of being a cohort and being in New York, right, the global city of New York, is really key to their learning as well. So Kennedy, can you tell us a bit about how you experienced global thought beyond the classroom?
Yeah, for sure. So I think being in New York is such a huge privilege itself. So, and I think the program has done a great job just like trying to incorporate or like embed the program into New York City. So in the spring semester, I took Ramona's class. So it was basically like a independent study class where you visited like the City Museum of New York, Guggenheim, the Met. So you do these field researches in the museums of New York, and you get credits for writing reflections and your observations. And for Kevin's class, Global Political Economy, we did like a research project in Chinatown. So my colleagues and I, we went to visit the stores in Chinatown to explore the socioeconomic issues that are prevalent in New York City. And I think those are two very concrete examples that I can think about. And also, I think just meeting very renowned professors and thought leaders across the globe is very interesting and amazing. So during our program, we got to meet one of the founders of the program, Professor Joseph Stiglitz, who's a Nobel laureate in economics. We also met, like during my free time, I attended events that invited Huma Abedin, Hillary Clinton, and our former president, Lee Bollinger, was also at our events. So I think those interactions with very renowned public speakers, leaders, was very mind-blowing to me as a student because I think for a long time they felt quite distant. Like you see their names in media outlets in different coverages, but to have them standing like 1 meter away from you was sort of like it makes you reevaluate a lot of your learning experiences, I would say that. And also just field visits to the United Nations headquarters, attending conferences at the UN as a youth delegate. I think those were experiences I couldn't imagine prior to New York or prior to the Global Thought Program.
Yeah, the Columbia, and partly because of its location in New York, attracts people from all over, right? When they're here in the city, perhaps for some other reason, like, the UN General Assembly. And then we have a speaker series of world leaders at Columbia, you know, for those in town for the UN General Assembly, you know, but that times, you know, 1,000, right? Because it's, and you know, people are always passing through New York, and Columbia is a magnet for those kinds of figures, right? So yeah, so there's, you know, I mean, God knows how many events there are on campus every single day. Yeah, Alex, what about you? What was your experience beyond the classroom?
Yeah, well, I think kind of 2 points that I want to talk. One is about internships, and then the other is you asked about the cohort. And I'll start with the cohort. Something that's great about New York City is that it is already an incredibly diverse city. And while many of the people in the course are not from the US, they often have many cuisines and cultures they want to share. And so being in New York is a perfect setting because you can go out to eat and you can have your classmate eat like food from their home and share it with you, and you don't have to be traveling outside the city to experience that. But you can later, you can make friendships and then go visit them later. um, I think it almost felt like a practice in not in diplomacy, but this idea of what is intercultural communication. How do we learn this and practice this, but with a cohort of friends and mutuals who respect each other. And that was kind of something I took away from the class. That was not a formal teaching, but it could have been informal lesson from the program. And it was also exciting as being from the US, I was able to take some friends from the program and we did a road trip and I got to show them home. And it's very lovely just to be able to share parts of the country that I'm really proud of and kind of see it through their eyes and see it through a really different lens than as sometimes when you grow up in one space, you don't quite appreciate it completely. So I think that's the cohort side. So you're just always learning from each other. And then while doing the program, I did 2 internships part-time. One was with the Columbia Climate School, which I also took courses with. And that was great because it connected me with many different people to network with, along with activities and a whole new kind of group within Columbia that if I had not been in global thought, if I had not had the flexibility to take courses in other colleges to do this internship, I would have never met, and I would have never kind of made these connections with people that were doing work that really resonate with me. And the Columbia Global Center's Nairobi chapter, which is a bit more closely related to global thought. And I discovered that internship through the program, but allowed me to reconnect with Nairobi, which is a city I really love, and to really just be trusted by my internship manager to lead events, to write articles, to really challenge myself in more of the kind of professional sphere that I think when we get into academics and we get into the MASA, some of those, I was really working those kind of, oh my God, the muscles that kind of the professional like field has you do that you kind of put on the back burner when you're in the academia era.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned internships because that's a question we get a lot, and it's something that you know we've established over the past few years as a consistent program that we offer to our students. The internships that we offer change every year, depending on you know what our partners are up to and you know what kind of support they need, but you know I can tell you this year we have interns working with Global Gateway Advisors, which is a communications and consulting firm founded by one of our advisory council members. We have interns working with Canvas Worldwide, which is an advertising agency that's also founded by one of our advisory council members. And we have a number of interns working with our chair, Adam Tooze, who's a historian and also a public intellectual, helping to manage his Substack and social media. And hopefully we'll have actually a couple more internships next semester as well. So, you know, you don't have a ton of time outside of class to work, but we also, you know, we know, and this is not a professional degree in the sense that, you know, say like, a SEPA degree, International Public Affairs degree is, that trains you for a specific job. Although many of our students do go on to those same kinds of careers. This is an academic degree, right? But we know that, it's also important for you to have those experiences, and professionalization outside of the classroom. So, we've talked quite a bit about, the way that global thought, the emphasis that we place on building a, cohesive cohort. And I think, again, global thought students are drawn from all over the world. Last year, I think we had 25 nationalities represented. So, 16 is low for us, 16 nationalities, but obviously still incredibly diverse, right? So we have students from all over, many students who have dual citizenship who have kind of existed, across borders their entire lives, but at the same time share, a kind of really idealistic perspective on the world about making the world a better place, right? And the importance of communication across borders and cultures, right? So, I think we create in the classroom and beyond a sort of a safe space, as it were, for those kinds of conversations, right? For people to share their perspectives, which might be quite different, right? But in a way that, encourages perhaps some debate, but a really friendly, supportive debate, and kind of to reach new sort of shared understanding. And so, just to, we start off the year with, a really lovely orientation, and we have a welcome event, and we have a series of workshops in the fall. So we have a workshop on adjusting to graduate school, life in New York City. We have a wellness workshop with someone from the counseling center, because we know that, like grad school can be tough on your mental health, when especially around midterms. We have a lovely holiday party. We have all kinds of events in the spring too. We go to the United Nations, we do a tour of the UN. We have, a boat cruise at the end of the year. We have our MA symposium, and I'm forgetting a lot of them too. I mean, Farryl and I were just in a meeting earlier today where we were like, oh my God, we have so many events. CGT puts on a lot of events, many of which are specifically for our MA students, but, others that are public events or events that we invite the broader Columbia community to, but that our students also attend. So just to kind of give you all a flavor of what life as a global thought student is like. So I want to ask the two of you, how have you found, your experiences at Global Thought? How have you applied those experiences to what you're doing now currently? So Kennedy, I'll throw it over to you first.
Yeah, of course. So I think one very big advantage of global thought is there are many places and regions that I really love in the world. And with this degree, I don't have to give up any of them, because it takes a very global and interdisciplinary approach. So right now I'm with the UN Development Program Human Development Report Office. The UN Development Program has a lot of more than 100 country offices across the globe. So I think knowledge of these countries are very important, because every year we do a global launch of our flagship report, but then we will go on to do the regional launches and country launches. So background knowledge of these countries, their cultures, geography, will be very critical to our understanding and research when we are developing this report. So prior to Global Thought, I think my main regional focus would be like East Asia, but Global Thought, the curriculum was I think it was one of my first learning experience of, I would say, Latin America, maybe because of the geographic distance. I think growing up in Beijing, I grew up mainly in Beijing. I think countries like Brazil, Argentina, Chile wouldn't be like a in recent years getting more popular, but because of the physical distance, like we didn't have much knowledge about this continent growing up. But in Kevin's global political economy class, I learned about Chicago boys, Chilean economy. I think to me that was something extremely eye-opening because this is a region I was com completely unfamiliar about for a very, very long time. And I think that understanding of Latin America's political system or economic system is so critical to what I am doing right now. Because right now I'm doing like international development and uh, knowledge um, of countries' differences, regional differences, really prepared me for my understanding of the work of this current office.
Great. And I love that. I mean, I think one of the things that we try to do at Global Thought is, toe a delicate line, right, between sort of thinking globally, right, and what are the kind of structures, histories shaping the world on a global scale, right? But at the same time, never letting that trump specificity, right? Like, yes, there are global trends, developments that we can study in an abstract way, right? But how do we bring that to the ground, to the ground level, right? And that's something that Kevin is his expertise is in Latin America, right? So he teaches from that perspective, right? And that's one of the things that we also ask you to do in your MA essay, right? Kind of bring it to the ground, right? And that reveals all kinds of both parallels, right? But also really important differences to how these global developments play out, in specific places. So Alex, tell us about how you're applying global thought today, your degree.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, one anecdote that I think is just funny is that, after you graduate, people ask you, what did you study? What was your master's in? And when you say global thought, it's not a term that most people are familiar with or have ever heard. So often, sometimes I've had people poke a little bit of fun. And then later, after we've talked for a while, they go, oh, wow, you really are a global thinker. You're really thinking in a different way. Because you actually just really learn how to talk about so many different topics and regions and places that often people are unfamiliar with, and means that in your everyday life, you're connecting a lot with people. I mean, I feel very confident now going really to any space and thinking, okay, I'm going to have something to talk to this person about. Whether it's I've been there, I've studied it, I have a friend who lives in this region now, there's always something you can relate to. And people really appreciate that and actually start to see that we can learn to think in a different way and to see connections that often are missed. In terms of what I'm doing currently professionally, it's very directly connected to global thought because while this is maybe a more academic degree rather than professional, you never know what your experience in a group project is going to lead to, because somebody that I had many group projects with reached out to me this summer, and one of her friends, having hearing about the program, asked her, I'm looking to hire someone for my team. Is there anyone from your program you think would be interested in this work? Knowing just the type of thinking that global thought trains us to have. And so that's how I was able to find both the bioregional embassy and the Jijigan Regenerative Village project in Bhutan. And both of these require thinking about both regions and every part of that system and the major challenges facing it, whether it's climate or development, education, and to really be forward thinking with it and to use solutions that are from other regions, other countries to build it up. And so I found that the degree not only led me to the projects I'm doing now, but has directly informed how I'm able to show up in this work and help support projects that do intersect international affairs and environmental science and education, and these things that earlier felt very difficult to find a program that trained me for, and then finding global thought, having it directly lead me to the work I want to do.
Yeah, and I think, one of the things that comes out in your comments is that global thought teaches you to be a flexible thinker, right? So on the one hand, through your MASA and through your coursework, you're developing expertise in a particular area, in a particular region, right? But you know, those are things that the skills and knowledge that you gain through global thought, you know, can be translated, you know, across borders, right? And I think in a way also because it forces you to be curious and again ask questions. You're going in with a certain amount of expertise, yes, but also, you know, you've because you've been immersed in this very global cohort, right, and taken so many different classes, you also, you know, I think global thought students have a certain like, you know, productive humility, right, and bring that to those situations, right, and that, you know, like what can I learn from you, what can I learn from my colleagues, right, and how can we work sort of collaboratively to ask different questions and find different solutions. Very quickly, you know, I think Farrell's probably answered most people's questions in the chat, but can you tell us what your MA essay was on? Because it is such a big part of the degree. So Alex, you go first, and then we'll go to Kennedy.
Yeah, my MA essay was on looking at climate change education policy in New York and Oregon, and really asking why has it not passed in the past 3 years, and investigating that.
Yeah, and I think, you know, just to kind of emphasize, right, when we talk about what a global thought project is, right, that we it's a very liberal, you know,
Yeah,
broad category, right? And I think you and I had this conversation because I was working with you on your essay, like, is this global enough? And I was like, I mean, it's about global warming, right? You
yeah,
know, this is, you know, a kind of, you know, the major global development and problem of our time, and you're bringing it to a local level, right?
and while I'm looking at local levels for New York and Oregon, which are familiar to me, it's about how do you look at that and see how do we apply it to global.
Right.
And something actually I know I kind of had is, you know, good thing for prospective students to know is to really come into this program. If you know what you want to study, then that's going to really take you far. Because, for example, for this one, I really want to look at climate education policy. And what Sarah and I decided was that looking at an international context would be difficult in the time that we had, just because of language barriers and access to information. But that we could look at the local, where I had I had a rich like access to resources around, and I could really develop a stronger essay on that could further be applied beyond the program.
Mm-hmm. Great. And Kennedy, yeah, tell us what your MA essay was about.
My MA essay was on how US-China relations is going to impact this higher education exchange. So I delved into this bilateral relations with with an overarching emphasis on higher education, and I think it's very relevant to current affairs. And here at the UN, I think I'm still navigating that topic in terms of how this relationship is playing out at global governance on the global stage. And I have actually personally witnessed some of those during our briefing sessions, executive board briefing session. And I think I'm still very much interested in the topic, even though I don't necessarily work on that right now. But earlier this year, I went back to Colombia to give this seminar with our wonderful professors, Adam Tooze, Lisa Wire, and Xiaobo Liu. We are talking about the future of higher education, and that was closely relevant to what I did for my research projects. And I think I have learned so much more details about this topic during my research, because previously I think I've heard about it all over the news, but it's very interesting to look at the figures and to examine the scale, the development of this very huge topic in so much details.
Yeah, and you know, that's something, it was so wonderful to have Kennedy come back and be able to have this conversation with our chair, Adam Tooze. And this is something he's very interested in, is, you know, I mean, partly because folks who work in higher education are interested in higher education, right? But, you know, the right now, education is a key American export to China and other parts of the world. And, you know, and that might change, right? And one of the things that Professor Tooze emphasizes is, you know, thinking in the middle of things, right? And he's a historian, I'm a historian. It's hard sometimes for historians to think in the middle of things, right? But you know, when you don't necessarily have the same kind of perspective as you do when you're thinking historically, right? But you know, we have to think in the middle of things right now, you know, and this is and the future of higher education is, you know, really centrally important to the US-China relationship, right? Because the United States attracts or has attracted so many Chinese students in recent years, and especially to Columbia itself. So we're a bit over time. Thank you so much, Kennedy and Alex. You know, I think you gave our prospective students an amazing, you know, perspective on what life as a global thought student is like and how it's equipped you for your life after global thought. Both Kennedy and Alex we had a happy hour event on Friday, and it was so wonderful to see our alumni, and really testament to the fact that, you know, our alumni are still really engaged with us and with global thought and with each other. And they often, you know, they come to these kinds of events and meet each other from different cohorts. And, you know, so not only do, you know, communities form within cohorts, right, but across cohorts as well. And so, yes, so, you know, thank you for, you know, to our wonderful alumni, and just, you know, you will all be receiving an email shortly about setting up an appointment, a one-on-one appointment with me, if you have any other questions that you want to ask about the program or about the degree. You know, I'm always here to, I and Farryl are always here to answer your questions. So we will end there, and thank you so much, everyone.